Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper. There is a new battle brewing between top House Republicans and the man leading the Trump hush money investigation in New York. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office is accusing 3 GOP House chairmen of trying to interfere in a local investigation as they renew their demands that he testify about his current probe of former President Trump. Joining me now is one of the Republicans behind the request, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman James Comer, Republican of Kentucky. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for joining us. You just wrote a new letter to Manhattan DA Bragg defending your decision to investigate his office, saying that you're considering taking legislative action to prevent presidents from, quote, politically motivated prosecutions. As of right now, of course, Trump has not been charged with anything. What do you say to Bragg, who says you're trying to stop a charge from happening even before you know of any evidence?
Well, what the DA is trying to say is what you just quoted. He said, stay out of local investigations. The problem with that is this is not a local investigation. This is a federal investigation. He's investigating a presidential candidate, not to mention former president of the United States, for a federal election crime. That has no business being litigated in a local district attorney's office. And when he says he's not going to cooperate with Congress, unfortunately for Mr. Bragg, he doesn't have the luxury of determining whether or not he can comply with congressional requests because he crossed over 2 levels of government from the local level to the federal level to try to prosecute something that clearly, if there was a reason for prosecution, it should be done by the Department of Justice on the federal level.
Well, he's investigating, as I understand it, potential violations of state crimes.
Even at that, look, let's just be honest here. I mean, this is about politics. This is a presidential candidate. When you look at what we believe the role of the Manhattan DA should be, is to fight crime. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues in New York. We saw that in the midterm elections last November. Voters overwhelmingly rejected many Democrat candidates because of the crime issue. We have, a crime crisis in many of our cities. We're trying to do something about that in the House of Representatives. And one of the reasons we believe we have high crime rates in certain parts of America is because we have prosecutors that are soft on crime. And we believe that our tax dollars, and that's where I come in with the House Oversight Committee, we believe tax dollars would be better spent prosecuting local criminals. That's what a DA is supposed to do.
Are you arguing that people who commit business crimes are not committing crimes?
Look, well, is this a business crime? We're talking about a federal election crime here, Jake. This is a federal election crime. The Manhattan DA does not write federal election laws.
My understanding is that he's being investigated for falsifying business records. There was a related prosecution. Michael Cohen went to prison. That was a federal investigation from the U.S. attorney during the Trump years. But that U.S. attorney, Mr. Berman, prosecuted, and Mr. Kuzami prosecuted Michael Cohen. He went to prison for that as well as related crimes. I don't remember hearing anything from you during that period. I guess he wasn't a candidate, but he had been working for Donald Trump.
That was a U.S. attorney that prosecuted.
Right.
We're talking about a local attorney. And look, if you open a can of worms here, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have county attorneys in red areas, in parts of Kentucky, rural Kentucky, where I am, that are going to start trying to overreach into federal election laws. This is something that if it needs to be investigated or prosecuted, it should be done on the federal level by the Department of Justice. This is a presidential candidate. What one frustration Republicans have in Congress is that we keep having interference in our elections. I know the Democrats complained about that, rightfully so, when James Comey, just a few weeks or a few days before the presidential election in 2016, said that Hillary was being investigated for mishandling emails. Look, that shouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. That shouldn't have happened. And we keep having stuff like this happen in our elections. We just want the government out of our elections. We don't believe tax dollars should be spent for this. We believe this is a political stunt by Mr. Bragg. We believe the statute of limitations has expired on all of this stuff. Clearly, if there's something that rises to criminal level, then that should be done on the federal level.
He hasn't. I mean, you keep asserting what this investigation is, and We haven't seen an indictment. We haven't seen charges. We haven't seen evidence. What if District Attorney Bragg comes forward with an indictment, with evidence, and proof that Donald Trump did commit these crimes? You still think he shouldn't be charged?
Well, we believe that he should come explain to us exactly what he's investigating, because at the end of the day, this is a presidential candidate. This is the, for better or worse, leading contender for the Republican nomination of the presidential election next year, as well as a former president of the United States. It's unprecedented for a local district attorney to investigate things that we believe the statute of limitations expired years ago. Now, look, if the special counsel that's looking into this wants to do something, if the Department of Justice wants to do something, then they probably, for better or worse, have the ability to do that. This is a local DA. We believe the local DAs need to be focused on business crimes, on burglary, on thefts, on carjackings, and all the things that we see happening in these big cities that are creating a crime crisis in America.
So a lot of your fellow Republicans on the Senate side seem to be concerned about what you and your fellow committee chairman in the House side are doing. Senator John Cornyn of Texas said, quote, "I personally prefer to see them work on the agenda they ran on and that got them the majority." Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina said, "I think you've got to fall short of getting involved in the legal process." Senator Jerry Moran, Kansas, said, "You want to know lots of facts before you set down that path." They seem to think that you and your colleagues are going way beyond looking into the use of federal funds and are risking interfering in a local investigation of a private citizen allegedly accused of committing a crime that someone's already gone to prison for.
Again, this is a local investigation. It's not a sincere argument to say it's a local investigation when you're investigating a presidential candidate and the former president of the United States. Again, we believe that this should be done on the federal level. We don't believe this is a good use of tax dollars. And if Mr. Bragg wants to come in and explain to us what he's doing, and he makes a good explanation, he makes a good argument, and we see that we're in an area where we shouldn't belong, such as some of the Republican senators say, then we'll back off. But we are sick and tired of meddling in federal elections. And I don't believe that Bragg would be doing this if Donald Trump were not running for president. And that's something that we would like to ask Mr. Bragg as well. Would you be doing this if he weren't a declared candidate for president of the United States? If so, if this is the reason you're doing it, then this is a political investigation, and we again desperately want to keep the Department of Justice from meddling in presidential elections.
Oh, I thought the issue was that it was a local prosecutor, not the Department of Justice. But let me ask you, if he refuses to come in willingly, will you subpoena him?
Well, that'll be up to Jim Jordan. I mean, he's the lead investigator in this particular situation. I come in as oversight because this deals with unnecessary use of tax dollars. Chairman Steele is head of House Administration. He's in charge of elections. That's why the three of us were the three that signed the letter, but Jim Jordan is the lead, and he would be the one to answer that question.
Jim Jordan, who refused to comply with a congressional subpoena in the previous Congress.
Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee.
All right. Chairman Comer, good to see you as always. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.